everybody, it's Maggie, and today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about grading notebooks. So I know one of the main struggles I think that teachers have with using a notebook collectively as a class or an interactive notebook or whatever you want to call it is keeping everyone on the same page at the same time and also deciding if, when, how you're going to grade it. So I've come up with what I think is a pretty good solution, and it works really well for me, so I'm going to share it with you today, and you can pick and choose, or if you don't think it will work for you, there are plenty of other ways that you can grade it, and I will share some of those probably at the end. So the first thing that I think is really important about interactive notebook is putting the responsibility back on the kids. Mostly what I'm using my interactive notebook for is note-taking, warm-ups, bell ringers, do-nows, whatever you want to call them, and then important stuff for class. So for me, if a kid has not done it, it's because they've not been here and they're not keeping up with it like they're supposed to, or they are not doing the warm-up in class together with us. I think it's really important for them to have responsibility with it. So I have them grade their own notebook. So I know you're saying, that sounds terrible, because when we have students grade things, a lot of times they cheat or they don't tell the whole truth or whatever. So when I say that they grade it, I mean they pretty much take a notebook check, kind of like test or quiz, with their notebook in front of them. And the answers are really, really simple because the answers are literally right in front of them as long as they've been doing the work. When I say that the answers are really simple, I'm not lying. Like, they're truly simple answers. Like, they're not answers that they have to think about. It's literally open to this page, write this down, you're done. So for my kids that keep up with their notebook, they always say, this is the easiest thing. And I'm like, yeah, it is. And for the ones that don't keep up with stuff or don't do those things, yeah, it's a struggle. And they will get very visibly upset when we do these notebook checks. However, I think that is, unfortunately, what I want. I want them to see that they have not been keeping up with it. I want them to turn to that page that it's asking for and to see that it's blank. So, with that being said, in order to do this, you have to have your own sets of notebooks for the class. And that's because you have to know what's on every single page. So, I keep up with my notebooks, and then when I think it's time to do a notebook check, then I will set one up. I do one notebook check at the very beginning of school after we've been here for a couple weeks, just to kind of show them that, like, I am going to check it, I am going to keep up with it, and it's important. I don't do another one until the end of the first 9 weeks. Then I will do maybe 1 or 2 more depending on the class at the end of the year. I do count them as a project grade, which is, for me, my highest percentage of grading in my grading scale. It is worth as much as a project or an essay. And for me, it's just an easy way for me to reward students that are doing what they're supposed to be doing, and for students that are not doing what they're supposed to be doing to see, I need to jump on the bandwagon quick. So, for instance, if you look, here is my table of contents. It's getting pretty full because we're halfway through the semester, so we've taken close to about 40. We've used about 40 pages in this notebook. Some people will use more, some people will use less, but that's about where we are with doing a warm-up every day plus notes and things like that. So we're up to about page 40. So what I will do is I will say, okay, where did my last notebook check end? So my last one ended about page 16. So I have between pages like 16 and 40 that are open for me to ask questions about. Sometimes I will go back and use pages from the past, pages that I know certain kids missed on the first notebook check, just to see if they ever went back and filled them in. I'm not really doing that this semester, but that's something I have done in the past. Another thing is when we actually do notes together in class, if it's a day where I look around and I can tell that a bunch of people are not doing the warm-up, then sometimes I will write that down on just a little scrap of paper like by my desk, because then I can say, ooh, I'm going to make a notebook check question about that. That kind of takes a little bit more forethought, but sometimes that's good, because if you know it's a day where like everybody's sleeping and not doing the warm-up, it's kind of a gotcha day. So there's that. So I have just made a notebook check, and I'm pulling it up on my computer, which is why I probably look strange right now, because I'm going to tell you about some of the questions that I'm using so you can see kind of what I mean. So for instance, my kids had to take notes on icing questions. So ICE stands for introduce the question, and then cite an example from the text, and then explain how that example works with the question. So ICE, I-C-E, introduce, cite, and explain, cite with a C. So one of my questions is, what does the C in ICE stand for? And it's on page 18. So it just says, on page 18, what does the C in ICE stand for? So the answer is cite, C-I-T-E. And that's something, if you literally have anything written on the page, hopefully you have that. Easy question. For some of our warm-ups, like on Mondays, we do Musical Monday, where there's like song lyrics that have figurative language in them, and they have to pick them out. So for one of those, it just says on page 22, what's listed under number 10. Number 10 was one of the lyrics that they had to write down. Simple. It's just copying. On page 26, we took some notes on coordinating conjunctions. So I just say on page 26, write all 7 of the coordinating conjunctions. Fanboys, for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. That's it. That's all they have to write, and they've got it literally right there. Each week when they do vocab, they get a vocab list that they glue in their notebook. And so on page 28, what vocab list are we on? Like, what numbered vocab list is glued there? All they have to write is 5, because it was list 5. So when I say that these are easy, I mean it's literally you open the page, the answer's right there, and you copy it down. I like that because I want these notebook checks to not take a lot of time. And also I want to, like I said, I want it to be simple, easy, and rewarding for kids that have done what they're supposed to be doing. I have 10 questions that are each worth 10 points. And sometimes I would throw in some questions that are a little bit harder. Like, I know when we were taking notes about the 3 types of irony, situational, dramatic, and verbal, that a lot of kids didn't write down the difference between sarcasm and verbal irony, and I told them multiple times they need to write it down. So I did make a question about that, because I know that a lot of them didn't write it down, and I want to reward the ones that did. So, you know, you can do questions like that, or you can make them all super easy, or if you wanted to, you could make it like an open note kind of test where you actually ask them questions, but they get to use their notes to help them. That would be another way that you could do it if you wanted to. Now, I do mine on Canvas, which is a learning management system, and I like it because it stores everything on the computer for me, and I don't have to take a bunch of notebooks home to grade them. I see a lot of teachers that have kids turn in the notebooks, or they have to take them all home, or they have to leave them all stacked up until they get them all graded. I just don't think that's worth my time. So I like this because they take the notebook check, then I get to take the check home and grade it. And it's super easy to grade because it says, like, the answer is 5 So if you don't write a 5, it's wrong. So that makes it super simple for me and for the kids. This can be very detrimental to a kid's grade if they do not do well on it. So something else that I do is if I know that a kid did really, really bad, like they made under a 50, I've had kids make 10s before, which means they got one question right. I will sometimes say, hey, fix your notebook, and next week you can take another notebook check. And a lot of times I will make a new one, which is a lot of work on me, but I don't want to give them the same one because then a lot of times they'll fix only the pages that are on the sheet, which I've had happen before. So that's something you can do if you really want to help students that are struggling. And now that I'm done rambling about that, let me tell you some other ways that you can grade notebooks. If this way doesn't sound good to you. A lot of my friends that teach math do notebook checks, and they will print out a sheet that has some questions. You can do it that way. You also can do it the old-fashioned way, where every single kid turns in their notebook and you go through and grade it and look for things. I've seen all kinds of rubrics and things on Pinterest and Teachers Pay Teachers, where teachers know exactly what they're grading. They look just for those specific things. They do a quick flip through and they're done. That's definitely a way you can do it. That's the way I used to do it. But then I had a lot of kids argue with me because I would say, like, I was looking for something on page 10, and I would flip to page 10 and the page numbers wouldn't be right, so I couldn't answer the questions. The kid would get the thing back and say, well, my page 10 is actually page 12, and they would get mad and argue with me. I like doing it my way because then they can't really argue with me about it because they're having to take it. So if they know that their page 10 is actually page 12, then they can just go ahead and fix it. But there's so many ways that you can grade notebooks. I've seen some people that just grade them on neatness. And them being completed. I've seen some people, like I said, use them for like open note testing. I've also seen people that don't grade them at all. And I will admit, I've had some classes that were really good classes where, or to be quite honest, where I've been too busy to make a notebook check. And, you know, we didn't do one. So you don't have to grade it. I think it's good, especially for like my inclusion classes, to grade it. For my honors class, they do that interactive binder, and I don't grade it. I mean, they're honors. If they don't keep their notes organized and completed, then that's their problem. My inclusion kids, I feel a little bit more responsible for checking up on them because a lot of times they don't know that they're not taking good notes. So this is a way to check in with them and help. Okay, something else to know about notebook checks. I do not announce them. I do not tell the kids, like, we're getting ready to take a test on Oedipus. I'm like, your test is Thursday, your test is Thursday, your test is Thursday. I don't do that for notebook checks because the whole point is to kind of catch them off guard with it. What I will do is I will start about a week before saying, and make sure that your notebook is fixed because we're probably going to have a notebook check soon. Make sure that your notebook is fixed. We're probably going to have a notebook check soon. So that's something I do just because I do want them to kind of have to take some responsibility for it and be caught a little bit off guard. Another thing that's really important about notebook checks is that the kid is using their own notebook. I've had kids cheat before and try to use someone else's notebook. There are plenty of ways that you can take care of this. I usually now will have the kids turn just like we're taking a test, because it kind of is a test, and do the notebook check that way and tell them the only thing they can have out is their computer because we're doing it online, and then their notebook. I have them move away from people. If you're afraid that people are going to cheat or try to trick you, I have done it before in classes where I make people come over, a few people at a time, and sit at like my big table over here, which holds like 4 or 5 people. Have them sit there, take it, then they turn their notebook in, and then the next group comes and does it. There's plenty of ways that you can take care of that if that's something you're concerned about. A good thing I have going on is my page numbers for my third and fourth block, which are about the same classes. It's my English 2 Inclusion and my English 2 Academic. Their page numbers are a little bit different. They have about the same stuff in them for the most part, but their page numbers are off because we did some things different in that class and some things in the other. So if I have a kid in my third block try to pass a notebook off to someone in my fourth block, it's not going to help them any. It's probably actually going to mess them up worse because they're going to flip to that page and there's going to be something totally different in there because they take a different notebook check. Especially if you're worried about cheating or another class going and telling, you make different notebook checks. You could make it 5 questions and then worth more points. It's totally up to you, and that's one reason I like it is I can change it however I need to every single semester to fit me and my classes. I also need to apologize to you because I haven't talked to you guys in a while. I had 3 classes turning in essays, so I had to get those done. Also, I was helping with our school's spring musical, which was Singing in the Rain. It was wonderful, just in case you were wondering. But that means I was staying every day after school until about 7:30. And then this weekend we had a performance Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, and then Sunday afternoon. So I've just been pooped. So now I'm finally back to normal and I have time to breathe. So I was like, let me make a video because it's been forever. I plan on doing a couple videos during spring break because I'll be all refreshed and I won't have anything to do. So stay tuned for that. Bye.